Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Wibbert and this is one of my builds. And this episode I started by recording a live build, but something went wrong with the audio, so I ended up doing this voiceover anyways. This time in between the episodes I noticed that there were some traffic problems in this central part of the city, so I decided to think about solutions that might help. And here I'm pointing out the areas that have some trouble, and the rail connection, it's just a bit too long for them to consistently take it, so I thought maybe if I expand on the rail network a bit, I could help people use the rail more than just using the cars. So I'm planning to just make some rails across this industrial neighborhood. And I didn't really exactly plan this or whatever. I did make a bit of a plan, because I just took a short moment to draw out a bit of a plan in Paint. Or no, not in Paint, but in GIMP. And I just analyzed some of the issues in the city using GIMP by drawing out the places where people live and where people worked. And then it just gave me a bit of an oversight of the problems that were occurring in the town, and it helped me plan out this episode a little bit. Though I ended up doing a live build and recording, which ended up not really working out, since for some reason the audio of the game, I thought I had set it up that the game audio and the voiceover, it wasn't the voiceover, but the microphone audio would be separate, but something went wrong, and I couldn't separate them, and the music was a bunch too loud. So that's why I'm now doing this voiceover, and there's probably not gonna be any music. I'll figure out how to do that better for the next time, because I think a live build like this it's a lot easier to record and to edit, and I don't know, it gives a more chill vibe to the video. You can just look at the city a bit. And the downside of doing this live, I guess, is the fact that the lag and everything that mainly the lag is very noticeable. So sometimes you'll see the game have some trouble rendering everything and stuff, and I hope you don't mind that too much. So first I wanted to address some issues with the current rail network, and one of the issues was that the station that's to the left of here doesn't have a good way of reaching the stations in the industrial areas. And if I connect it over here to the piece of rail that's going up, then that would solve that problem. And I'm trying to find a good way to connect it, but it's a bit tricky, and it doesn't really end out working the way I had thought. So I'm gonna be experimenting a little bit over here. And the idea of this episode is in part to improve on some aspects of the city that aren't working quite well, like the infrastructure has some issues, and I'm also gonna add some homes and some jobs in the form of offices and a bit of farmland. And it's just gonna be a pretty basic video, to be honest, but that's fine. It's I don't know, I kind of want to make something epic every episode, but I think that's pretty much impossible. And I do think I make some pretty nice stuff in general. And yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you just get a basic episode like this. I think it's a pretty basic episode. And here I noticed that around here, yeah, I noticed that junction glitched out. I think the textures, I think the transition textures were just not there. So that shape was impossible for me to build. And here I'm thinking, how do I want to do it then? And I thought, wait, I can just do something like this maybe. But then maybe I just want to do a bit of a crossing instead of that thing. So I'm gonna end up removing that. Yeah, I'm not really good with the rail terms in English, nor in Dutch. I think I'm not really good with them. I'm not a big rail head, although I do like to. I mean, it's just a bit of the theme of this region in general that there's gonna be a lot of rail traffic, and yeah, that's why I also installed a lot of rail mods. And here I thought maybe I can make this bend look a bit smoother, and I think I can, but then I need to move that junction over a little bit. Or that, what are those called? I guess they're not called splits. Yeah, the place where the rail splits into multiple tracks. I know there's like a word for it, and it's even used in the game or in the network add-on mod. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see the overlay of these puzzle pieces when they're not on completely flat land. So that's why I derped out that rotation over there. And now I could see this little corner over there, which indicated that it was pointed the right direction. I'm not going to be fixing the foliage in this episode. I decided that I was just going to do some... Well, it's not going to be very quick. So you might want to play this at double speed or whatever if you're impatient. Or, I'm not going to call you impatient, but if you just find this a bit too slow, I can... well, I know the feeling. There's sometimes just videos that are a bit too slow and you want to skip ahead or whatever. Don't make me waste your time with this speed of building if you feel like. Although, yeah, you're watching YouTube videos, so I guess you have time on your hands. Anyways, let me stop talking about wasting time. So, yeah, here I'm just kind of thinking about how I want to connect it over there. In preparation of this video, I did do some research in whether I would be able to connect it to that fractionally angled rail, and I could not. So I decided to do it, to connect it next to the station over there. And now I didn't know what kind of puzzle pieces there would be for me to connect to at the station, so I'm gonna end up scrolling through all the puzzle pieces. And because this area is very hard to see what the puzzle piece look like, I just looked for a flat area where I would be able to see it. So if over here it's a bit more clear what the puzzle pieces look like, and I'm basically looking for something that splits off. This was almost it, but the split off was in the wrong direction. So I would have to have made a very sharp bend for me to make that work. I could have maybe done that. Yeah. I don't think the puzzle piece exists currently, which there's a lot of puzzle pieces, so maybe it's just a weird kind of transition that I was trying to do. Or maybe I'm just not familiar enough with it. This looks pretty close, but no, it wasn't it. So, yeah. I couldn't find the right puzzle piece. So in the end I decided that I needed to think of a different solution. And I decided to just drag some rails and see what it looks like. Yeah. I have this mod for the catenaries, which are the thing that hold the electrified wire above the rail. I have this mod for them that kind of derps out on some of the junctions. So that's why I was trying to use these puzzle pieces at first. But here I thought, that's not gonna work, because it's just not gonna connect nicely. So I decided to just use the normal rail, use the rail and see what it was gonna end up looking like. So what I wanted was a diagonal over there, something like that, and then I wanted it to connect to that one, and then connect there, and then as you can see, one of the catenaries is pointing towards an object that I don't have, which is causing this brown box. And I kind of decided to find a different solution here by just dragging it like that. I think that transition looks kind of interesting, and the problem is that there's gonna be a bit of extra track there now, but I decided that there was just gonna be like a storage track or whatever, where you could store some trains that were due for maintenance, or maybe just trains that were just used on the busy parts of the day and were stored over there when it's at some parts of the day there's gonna be more trains driving around, and at some parts less. So I decided to just imagine that was a bit of a storage track. And here I decided to build a train station, and there's this helicopter hovering over there. I guess there's some crime going on in the city, but whatever, there's always gonna be some crime. And I thought maybe the shelter one looks best, but if I rotate it like that, I thought it would look a bit weird, so I decided to put it on the other side. Maybe that looks better. And then I decided to look for a piece that would extend that a little bit to give it a bit more of a rounded off shape. But the one with the building had the same rotation as it. I guess I could have put it on the other side of the track, maybe. I could have just done that, I think. But I didn't do that. I didn't think of that. And I decided to just make it like that. And I think that looks alright. But that last piece I plopped down of train station didn't have a proper road connection yet. So I thought maybe I can use some pad molds or maybe some decorations, but they clipped through the ground. Normally pad molds don't do that, but I'm using a mod that allowed them to change texture based on your pavement texture that you're using, but that also caused it to not be slope conforming like the normal pedmals would be, and yeah, that meant that I couldn't use those on those very unflat areas. And here I decided to give some T intersections to the bike paths. I believe the bike paths are coded in a way that the directions of their endpoints actually matter in connecting traffic to different parts of the city, so you can't just have something next to a pedal bike path and then automatically connect to it. You actually need to make sure that there's an endpoint pointing in the right direction or somehow connecting to it. So that's why I made those T intersections, to give people on the on the bike paths a bit more of an easy time to get to the station. So that's the station over there. And here I'm looking at the track again, thinking, wait, what was I thinking about that? And then I remembered, yeah, I wanted to make that a bit of a storage track. And I almost started doing the foliage over there, but I decided that I wanted to keep the foliage for another episode, or maybe in between episodes, because you've seen me do the foliage, and I don't know, I like to to a certain degree I believe people are just more interested in seeing stuff get built. So yeah, I'd rather, here I'm just shaping out what I want to do with these areas. I decided that I wanted to build some farms here, and I wanted to continue this diagonal, and it's pretty hard to see how that diagonal is gonna continue. I'm just trying to not make mistakes here, but it's kinda hard to see with all these trees in the way. So I decided maybe a zone view or something would help, but the zone view did nothing. And yeah, I thought maybe power view or something would help. I could have gone into underground view, but then maybe the blueness of the water pipe stuff would be tricky. And yeah, the game was kind of freezing up on me here, so I got a bit scared, and I decided, yeah, let's not do too much with those zone views. So I decided to just use the bulldozer for a bit and rotate the camera, I believe, yeah, to give me a bit more of an angle where I could get a little bit of a better view, but it's still kind of hard to see. So I'm double checking myself all the time. It doesn't really matter if you're one block off every now and again, but I thought maybe, well, I wasn't sure, of course, of how it was gonna look like, but I had something in my mind where the diagonal would just look a bit cleaner without it being derped all over. But yeah, I think it wouldn't have really mattered. So first I'm just planning an outline over here, and yeah, not being very efficient with how I drag all this. So I planned this outline, and now I'm starting to think of whether I want this to be one big farm or a couple small farms, and I decided that I wanted to do two small farms or smaller farms, because they're still pretty chunky in my opinion. So I decided I wanted to have one farmhouse over there connecting to that street, and here I'm just, here I decided I wanted another farmhouse over there, and maybe have a bit of a diagonal going down like that. Seems alright. And yeah, since I was planning on making two farms, I decided to use the D-zone tool to split the two areas up. and I just randomly picked a diagonal there. You don't have to always overthink things. I tend to overthink things, but it's really unnecessary at times. Just do something. As long as you're doing something, you're moving ahead, right? If you're only thinking about stuff you might want to build, or things that you hope will turn out to be super epic or whatever, then you're gonna end up never really building anything. So it's better to just build something that's okay, rather than wait until you can build something epic, I believe. And here I thought maybe I could make some driveways for these things, but the street widening mod isn't very I don't know, there's some intersections that just don't work very well. For instance, this T intersections, it's pretty much just because I'm connecting to a diagonal road, which when you connect to a diagonal road, the intersection only connects, if it's a T intersection, it only connects to one of the two tiles that it would need to connect to, so it only changes the one tile that's closest, which is why that looked a bit weird. But that's just because the road bit, if you connect it, if you drag it to that second tile as well, it's gonna start making a cross intersection, which I didn't want. And here I decided to just sprinkle some homes here. I thought, I wanted to do some small cozy farms around here, and maybe some homes that enjoyed the nice view of the canal, although they would also be, I don't know, very close to the rail track, so maybe it's not that nice to live there, but that's why I made these small homes, so there wouldn't be too wealthy things, there wouldn't be super wealthy homes developing there, but some nice little cozy neighborhoods, I think. And here I'm just making some random shapes with the farms. I'm trying to be not too random, but not too structured. So I don't know. I think it's pretty much impossible for a human being to be random. You're always gonna have some kind of notion of what you think random looks like, which causes you to not be random, because you're designing things based on your own notion of what random is, and that causes you to have some deterministic aspect to the way you design things. But I guess it looks kinda random, I don't know. Looks random enough for me. And maybe things looking random isn't really realistic in a city. I don't know. I guess things in the city are generally built by people. Though a lot of this city looks pretty random if you look at those industry yards and stuff. And even that commercial district over here. I think it looks pretty random how all these buildings are plopped together. So, I don't know. Maybe in a game like this you need to embrace some part of the randomness. And now I'm looking over here, because there's a station over there that's next to the canal. And it didn't make sense for me to only have people living on one side of that canal, because a station means that there's a pretty valuable access of public transit over there. So if you were looking for a place to develop new homes, and you knew there was a spot free like that, then that would probably be one of the first places that you would start to think about building some homes and some offices even, because offices also like to be close to public transit, because it makes I don't know, I think in general, people that work in offices tend to be a bit more likely to use public transit, but I'm not really sure about that, because I also know about offices that just have gigantic car parks all around. So I'm not really sure. But I thought, being so close to a train station would mean that it would make sense for there to be at least some form of development over there. And there I'm just counting out the shapes. I decided to go with something that was 6 deep or 6 wide, I don't know. But I hadn't decided on the other kind of road plan yet. At first I thought it was just gonna be one big block. But yeah, later on I decided on something different. And here I decided to make a bit of an access road like that, so I'm using the rail to flatten the land, and to keep it from super derping there, I've decided to use a single bit of rail to give it a bit of an anchor next to that road, else it would have probably transformed the height of that rail of that road on the corner a lot. And here I was thinking about a second block, and I decided to not make that absolutely flat, because maybe it would look cool, I don't know. And I think it ended up looking pretty cool. And here I'm continuing the slope, though this part is a lot smoother than the first little bit, but I think that's alright. So this is a bit of a terraced build, and in the next city that I'm planning, I'm gonna do something similar. I haven't really made a big mega plan or whatever for that city yet, but I'm planning to make it a bit more of a capital city kind of thing. But it's also not gonna be super dense, because there's gonna be a lot of open space where these terraced areas will transition from one height to the next. So I don't know exactly what it's gonna look like. So here I started just filling it, the whole thing, and then I thought, wait, maybe I do something like this. And then just have some cross streets over there, because that would create some extra blocks, and I thought maybe having a bunch of blocks looks a bit more interesting than just having one big block. And I don't know if that's true, but it's what I did. And I think it's fine. So I decided to do that over there too. And one thing that this layout does allow you to do is to have different rotations of the zoning. Even though I didn't do that in this part, I just used the direction that they zoned in by default. But I'm gonna build some extra zones over in this direction, and there's gonna be some zoning that's gonna have a bit of a different rotation, and I think a bit of randomness like that also makes these areas look kinda realistic, I think, though I'm not sure. During this episode these areas will develop somewhat, but I don't think they will reach their final form, or whatever you want to call that. Basically that's probably because here I'm planning out so every 4 squares there's gonna be one of those side roads. It's probably the land value, which is why they didn't completely develop into high wealth stuff, or whatever it was that they're gonna end up growing into, because I don't know. And here I'm looking at this other road, and I didn't want to derp that road out, so I decided to keep my distance. And yeah, so whenever a square touches another road and you make that into a flat square, then it's gonna derp out the road. So I kept an open square in between there. And I'm gonna end up building a bit of a diagonal transition on that corner. And because I wanted the width of this one to be the same, and it's a bit shifted because there's a road next to it, where the other one is a bit closer to the canal, it's gonna look a bit different in terms of its access road. And here I'm just connecting that corner, so that's a little bit of a diagonal, and I think that's gonna look alright. I'm just not gonna really smoothen out that bend because I think the two diagonal transitions are a bit too close to make two smooth ones. And because I counted out, I thought it would be smart to just enable the grid for a bit. I tend to forget disabling the grid when I'm doing screenshots and stuff like that. I don't know, sometimes I notice that I didn't disable the grid, and then I think, well, yeah, that's a bit of a shame because the screenshot tends to look a lot better without these artificial lines. And I thought this worked out pretty nicely over there, the way that zoning fitted into that bit with the diagonal. Yeah, so here's a trick that I tend to do. I tend to measure things by using a certain road type and looking at the value. And the first one was $40, and this one's 42 because there's a slight height difference in the terrain, but you could round it down to 40, which means that I knew that it was the same length, and here I can count out 30, which is 6 tiles basically. So yeah, measuring out that 30 twice helped me plan out that zone. So if you don't flatten everything, you can put down the roads a lot faster. As you can see here, you can measure out things a lot easier. And I recommend not flattening everything, because if everything's flat, I don't know, it's fine if you do, but I think it might turn out to look pretty boring and uninteresting if everything's gonna be the same flatness. I like these high transitions and the random slopes that stuff gets built on when there's these little bit of height differences. And here I decided to just make a bit of a shopping mall kind of area where it connects to the road. In my mind, there's gonna be a bunch of traffic there, which means that these shops that will probably develop there will have a bunch of customers, and for the people living there, it's gonna be convenient to drive by some shops on the way to home. And since it's probably gonna be close to their homes, it's also gonna be nice for them to well, when I go shopping, I like to go to a familiar shop, especially if it's a supermarket, because then I know where everything is. Whenever I go into a new supermarket, I just tend to get lost for at least 5 minutes. Well, not really lost, but the shopping tends to take a bit longer by about 5 minutes, because I just don't know where some stuff is. And I think the shops do that on purpose, because they have a certain metric where they count how long you are in the shop, and they noticed at some point in the past that the longer someone is in your shop, the more stuff they tend to buy. And I think they drew the conclusion that means that if you keep people in your shop longer, then they just tend to spend more money, though you could just counter explain that by saying, yeah, if people want a lot of stuff, they're gonna be in your shop longer because they're gonna need to go to more different areas in your shop. So I don't know if they still believe that, but I believe I heard at some point that shops tend to change the layout plan that they use in order to keep people in their shop as long as possible. Not every shop does that. I know some shops that are just very convenient in the way they plan it out. Yeah, but for some reason there isn't just like a standard shop layout that the shops use. Which is weird, because if I go into a shop that's just super weird in the way they present their goods versus a shop that I'm used to, then I tend to just not go to that shop too often. So, yeah, I don't know. There's all kind of things going on in the way shops lay out their goods. For instance, whenever you are in line for the checkout, there's always gonna be some, well, at least on your way over there, there's all this tempting kind of stuff. There's gonna be candy bars visible, and there's maybe even alcohol. Alcohol tends to be pretty close to the checkout in some shops. And there's also like sweet drinks like Coke or whatever. And I guess in some part it might be the shops themselves that decide that they want to put the most tempting stuff over there, because you might not have thought about buying it if you hadn't seen it. So it might be the shops themselves, but it might also just be the companies. For instance, Coca-Cola might have like a deal or something with the supermarket in order to get the best selling spots in the supermarket or whatever. I'm sure there's all kinds of shenanigans going around that. But yeah, I think about those things a bit too much. I don't really think about it all that much, but when I notice stuff like certain items always being in a certain area in the supermarket, then I tend to look for an explanation about why they would want to do that. And this isn't all just me thinking out loud. Some of these ideas also, because I used to know somebody who did the planning for a certain store. It wasn't a supermarket, but it was like a pharmacy kind of store, and she liked to talk about what she did, and she told me about the kind of nuances that came with her job, and I thought that was pretty interesting. So there's actually people who study, who studied and are experts in shop design and the way, where you want to put which goods on which shelf, how big the shelf needs to be, and stuff like that. And they they tend to optimize that to increase the number of sales. Though I don't know, if you're a smart shop holder, then you also want to increase the amount of people that want to return to your shop. Because there's some shops that are just super awkward and ugly, and you just want to leave as soon as you stepped in the door. And there's some shops that are just super relaxing to go to. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess there's also a price tag to a shop being able to be relaxing. I guess it's maybe less efficient to have a nice relaxing atmosphere in your shop, because you need to install better lighting and to maybe have your paths be a bit wider. I don't know really what makes the difference. Maybe the shelves are a bit lower too. Although I think making your shelves lower, especially in these times when there's a lot of old people around that aren't as tall as the younger generations, I think it would make more sense to make your shops very accessible for old people. Because even though not everyone of the older generations does their own grocery shopping, I think there's still a very big part of the people doing shopping. At least where I live, I see whenever I go to the grocery store, which I try to do as little as possible these days because of the whole pandemic thing. But whenever I do have to go out and do this grocery shopping, and I tend to do it at times that I would reckon there's gonna be as little people in the shop as possible. So sometimes it's when I have a free day, I tend to go in the morning at like 10 a.m. But there's like hordes of old people in the shop already by that time because they want their fresh bread or whatever reason they have to go that early. And okay, I'm brabbling on a bit. I don't know what the word is. But here you can see that the farms did grow, but they have those pretty little green car signs. And I decided to just speed it up a bit, and I thought, it's not working. And now I decided I wanted to reduce the blockiness of these farms a bit, so I decided to use these these maple trees. Then I think they're Norwegian maple trees or whatever, and I thought they tend to be pretty big when you zone a bunch of them, so I thought they would be nice for reducing the amount of blockiness these farms have. So I'm just trying to round off these sharp edges a bit. And maybe it looks weird, maybe it looks alright. You decide for yourself what you think about it. And oh, here I accidentally planted one in the middle of the street, and that did look weird. Because, yeah, I don't know. I'm not the kind of mayor that plants trees in the middle of streets. At least not permanently, because I did plant it there for a few seconds. But the game is paused, so I guess it would be 0 seconds in the game fantasy time. So I'm using these trees to just round off the farms a bit, and to just make it I wanted it to look a bit less like squares, a little bit less Minecrafty and a bit more organic, but yeah, it still looks a bit blocky, I think. But yeah, there's only so much you can do. And here I thought maybe I can address this whole green car signal thing by just letting time run for a bit, and I thought, wait, I already did that. So I decided to use some Patmos maybe to fill this area out a bit. Oh, yeah, that one did really work. Though there's still some dirt out squares there. And that fixed it. Alright. So, the Patmos, they tend to turn into blank space when they're next to a road or next to a farm or something. I don't know. Here I forgot about the seasons when planting those trees, but whatever. It's not super important. Might just look a little bit weird to some people who are paranoid by that. And I just decided to not do this whole, because I did a bit of decoration over here and I didn't really want to spend like 40 minutes decorating the rest of this, because I kind of wanted to keep this video at about 50 minutes long, and I think it's gonna be close to that, maybe a bit over 50 minutes. I'm gonna end up doing some coding after recording this voiceover, so I'm not exactly sure yet. But yeah, here we can see a bunch of the things I did. And I decided to look at the traffic. It's a lot better now, because that street used to be all red. And now it's just the crossings that are kind of overcrowded. And here I'm just looking at the sources of the traffic and at the destinations. And yeah, most of the traffic is just cars going to their jobs. And here's this Batmall bike path. It's a lot of people using that to get to the public transit over there. So yeah, I did solve some part of the problem, but definitely not all of it. But maybe I'm just gonna keep it like that, because the downside of that traffic is of course that the commute time is up a bit, but it's only at the intersections, so I'm not sure it's really that big of a problem. And the upside is that the commercial around there is thriving because of the traffic noise it produces. The traffic noise is like it's represented with the same number that represents the congestion, and the traffic noise is a thing that also represents the customers, the number of customers, and even offices like a lot of customers. So it's good for that commercial district that there's that much traffic over there. But here I'm just figuring out, maybe I can do another road over there to relieve it a little bit. But I didn't want to change that area too much. And there's already like multiple roads, so maybe that wouldn't really help that much anyways. And in the end I'm just gonna decide to leave it as it is. I'm not sure, maybe in the future I'll do something more drastic. But I kinda like the layout and the look of that area as it is. Especially the area around the hospital. I think it looks pretty interesting. So I'm not sure. Maybe if you have some ideas, you could share them. And if you think that traffic didn't look that bad, you could also share that. Of course I could incorporate buses and stuff into the city. Maybe even subways. I don't know. I just wanted people to walk a bunch. And the problem with buses would also be that the neighboring city already has a bunch of buses. But I don't think that's a problem. I do think buses are a bit annoying because they always take up that one space. And you could install road top mass transit stuff, which might mean nothing to you, but what it is it's just bus stops that don't take up an extra block of space. You can just plop them on top of your roads or streets or even avenues, which means that you don't lose the space. Here there was a building that was being really weird and I'm not sure what was going on with the building, but I tried to demolish it or bulldoze it, and that didn't work. I think I'll try dezoning it maybe, but for some reason I couldn't click it, or I couldn't select it. But when I selected the bike path next to it, it did show that it had some pedestrians coming from there, so I have no idea what. Yeah, here you can see me clicking that thing, and yeah, as you can see there's a pink arrow coming from it, but for some reason I can't select it. Well, I can select the other one, so I think it's of a different type than the other one. It's the same type of building, but it had a bit of a different arrangement, so I think there is just something wrong with that version of the 6x6 building. And here I'm I was talking, when I first recorded it, I was talking about how I kind of like the look of these small houses there. I think they create a pretty nice uniform looking neighborhood. I use these Padmol bits to simulate something that would be stairs or something like that. I think I could make a custom Padmol texture for stairs, maybe, but then it would look pretty weird on shallow slopes, maybe. Maybe not, I don't know. It wouldn't be in 3D, so it would probably look weird regardless. Suppose it might be possible to do something that is in the 3D. Not sure. There is fences that are kind of slope conforming, so you could maybe use that technique for steps. I think it would be possible, but I'm just showing the things that I built this episode now. I might change that street into a Sam street of some sorts, but I'm not sure. Yeah, there's still some areas that need to develop over there, and there used to be a trash heap over here, and I finally got it to dissipate. There's some weird height terrain stuff going on there. I think at some point I tried to get the trash heap to disappear by changing the terrain, which is why there was still some weird terrain over there. And here, I was derping out a bit, but I ended up getting the height fixed. And what happened there is if you put single bits of street down right in front of a street end, then it just continues that street and it doesn't flatten the land completely. It just flattens it like along one axis, and that caused me to derp out a little bit. There's some trains coming around. Yeah, the train network is looking pretty nice in my opinion. Yeah, there's still some empty areas of industry around, and I'm probably gonna put some more decorations and fillers for that at some point, but probably not gonna be a major part of a video. We'll have to see. I'm pretty happy with this build and this general video. I think it improved the rail network quite a bit. And yeah, I think I like the solutions that I come up with. And that little area, that looks pretty nice with all those French looking houses. Not sure if I want to do a lot of that in the next city. Might look cool, but then you'd be restricted in the zones shapes. Maybe I can find some buildings like that aren't 10 by 10. Probably can. Let's leave you all with a little bit of an overview. I started with an overview, I believe, so you can maybe see the difference from where I started and end. I want to thank you all for watching. I think I like the look of those small little farms, and I'm probably gonna continue that along in the direction there. I'm gonna need a road connecting to that city. That's gonna be the big capital city, so I'm probably gonna make that around here and then just do some farms around it or something like that. Something similar to those little farms in the woods over there, because I do think I like the look of that. Looks a bit cozy and a bit more organic than the big farm fields. Maybe it's unrealistic as well, I don't know. I don't really care. about realism too much. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'd like to see you again. Goodbye.